A few months ago, I had shared about the Andon Cord. It is one of my favorite examples of psychological safety as a real world practice. For those who might have missed that episode, I will share the link in the post. I had ended the video with a question. What are you doing in your organizations so that it's safe to pull the cord or press a red button? And I received a lot of great examples. But what if you're an individual asking big questions of the system? What if you're only 16 years old and you're in the biggest sports stage that there is? Welcome back to my Thursday video series where I share examples for you to use at work to make your messaging sticky. Alana Slater had started gymnastics as a toddler. She was that kid who walked on the beam at 16 months old. She would be like, no, don't hold my hand, I'm fine. For her, it was a real sense of joy and love. She made a national debut at 9 and competed internationally at 11. She was 16 when she participated in the year 2000 Sydney Games. Slater and 35 other gymnasts were halfway through the Olympic all-around final. Now, Slater had not expected to contest the medals in Sydney. She was too young and the competition was too strong. A lot of the other gymnasts were at the peak of their careers. For Slater, who was just 16 years old, the pressure also came with the added decibels. More than 15,000 fans in the Sydney Superdome roared every time their compatriot approached any of the apparatus. Russia's Svetlana Korkina, the 1997 world champion and the reigning European champion, was in hot form. But her campaign had rapidly and unexpectedly derailed. After a strong display on the floor, which was the first of the 4 disciplines, she went to the vault. She didn't even get close to landing during her warm-up attempts, coming down on her knees. But trusting her hours of practice and polish, she stuck to her routine for the competition. After a little shout of self-encouragement on the runway, she launched into the air, off the wall, twisting and spinning. Once again, the floor arrived too soon. Her shins walloped into the crash mat. She hopped to her feet, struck a pose, but her face was already crumbling with disappointment. Her hopes for gold were dashed. But she was not the only one to struggle. American national champion Ellis Ray botched both her vaults. Great Britain's Annika Reeder injured herself and had to withdraw from the competition. Brazil's Daniel Hipólito bashed her head as he whiplashed into the landing. Even allowing for nerves, the standard was well below what was expected from the best in the world. Having completed 2 disciplines, it was Slater's turn. She was the first of her group of gymnasts to attempt their 3rd rotation, the vault. I was standing at this end of the 25-meter runway, she says, and I looked at the vault and I thought, it's too low. It just looked low. So she turned to her competitors and said, the vault looks too low. Does it look to you? Under the lights and amidst those sparkling sequins, Alana Slater's words really hung in the air. Slater turned and looked at her rivals, and no one answered her question. She says, I thought maybe they don't speak English, or maybe they did understand me, or maybe they were so focused on what they were doing and where they were at that moment. Now, the vault might have looked low, so Slater decided to test if the sensation backed her eyesight. She took off down the runway. She says, I'm not a tall athlete, so as I went off the big board into the wall, the feeling that I would normally get was one of going into the side of the vault. But instead, I was coming down on top of it, and it was absolutely a feeling that I had never had on the vault. I knew the feeling from the end of the runway was 100% correct. The vault was definitely the wrong height. Now, I had a choice as a 16-year-old, she says, to say something and stop the competition or just get on with it. She chose the first option. She walked back to the wall, turned to her coaches, Peggy Liddick and Nikolai Lapchin, and motioned to show that the wall was nearer her stomach than her chest, where it usually came up. Unless I had grown overnight, it was too low. Nikolai looked at her dead in the eye, measured it up with his own body, and then a horrified look came over his face. In the next few minutes, stunned realization spread around the arena. Tape measures were brought out and they revealed that Slater was right. The vault was wrong. Instead of the normal 125 centimeters, the vault was set at 120 centimeters. A difference of 5 centimeters, almost 2 inches. And that's a margin that can just wreck a finely calibrated routine. And it could be the difference between perfection and humiliation. The Olympic staff quickly crowded around the vault, unscrewing the bolts, shuffling it up to its proper height. Officials gesticulated awkwardly on the sidelines as the scale of the error became clear. Television commentators were aghast and the coaches were furious. I've never seen anything like this, even at a little local meet, said Katie Kelly, who was the US head coach at that time. And half of the field had already competed on that vault, which was set too low. So it was decided to offer these 18 the chance to repeat their vault. But for many, it was already too late. Their concentration and confidence had been irrevocably shaken. As Slater said, the sad thing is, nobody really won out of that situation. But as a coach reminded, what did win was a young athlete having a voice and being able to use it in one of the most pressured situations in a sporting career and being heard and listened to. What a wonderful example. Now, where at work would you use this example? Let's say you're emphasizing on the importance of safety in a factory and want to encourage the team to speak out and highlight faults in the existing systems, even though they've been doing it for a long time. This would be a great example to use. Where else would you use this example? Do share in the comments and let me know.